Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. Cam Newton and Tua Tagovailoa are making headlines, and not just because of what happened on the field. The Miami Dolphins are heading into Week 4 without a single win on their record, and frustrations are bubbling. For Tua, the pressure is mounting as critics question whether he's really the guy to lead Miami out of this slump. Among those critics is none other than Cam Newton, former MVP, Heisman winner, Super Bowl starter, and now outspoken analyst. What started as sharp criticism from Newton quickly turned into a heated back and forth, and Tua's reply has everyone talking. But Newton didn't let it pass. Instead, he leaned into the moment, teased his audience, and prepared a response that reminded fans why he's never been afraid to speak his mind. The spark came when Newton took a deep dive into Tua's situation and his paycheck. Speaking plainly, Newton pointed out that Tua is being paid more than some of the best quarterbacks in the NFL today. Names like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, even rookie Jaden Daniels. Cam's tone wasn't just jealousy or bitterness, it was about perspective. In his words, this is a matter of more money, more expectations. If you're going to be paid like one of the league's elite, you better play like one. He highlighted that Tua has been given weapons most quarterbacks would kill for, a Ferrari and a Lamborghini, as Newton described them. And yet, the output hasn't matched the resources at hand. It wasn't just empty talk. The numbers were right there, staring back at Tua and the Dolphins. Against the Buffalo Bills, Tua's line was underwhelming. 22 completions on 34 attempts, just 146 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On paper, that's serviceable, but not what you expect when the franchise has poured so much faith, money, and talent into their quarterback. Newton didn't sugarcoat it, and as a man who's played the game at the highest level, he spoke with the kind of authority that comes from experience. But Tua didn't sit quietly. Asked about his performance and Newton's words, he first admitted what fans already knew, that he hasn't played anywhere near his own expectations. That humility would have been the safe route, but when pressed on Newton's remarks, he fired back with something unexpected. Well, anybody can play quarterback in this league then. I want to see anybody on the streets come and play quarterback. It was a defensive comment, maybe even flippant, but the irony of it is hard to ignore. Tua was addressing a man who not only played quarterback at the highest level but excelled. Newton was the #1 overall pick in 2011, a national champion at Auburn, a Heisman winner, and a rookie who threw for over 4,000 yards his first year in the NFL. By 2015, he wasn't just good, he was the league MVP, leading the Carolina Panthers to a 15-1 record and a trip to the Super Bowl. This wasn't somebody on the street. This was Cam Newton, and Cam knew it. Instead of snapping back with an angry rant, he played the moment smartly. Taking to X, the platform once known as Twitter, Newton shared Tua's clip and set the stage for what was coming next. He created a poll asking fans which version of Cam they wanted to see on First Take the next morning. The options? Former player Cam, distinguished Cam, petty Cam, podcast Cam, or all of the above. It was playful, sarcastic, and sharp all at once. Newton was basically telling the world, I can go high, I can go low, I can go serious, or I can clown around, but one way or another, I'm going to respond. It was the perfect tease to keep fans engaged, waiting to see what the veteran quarterback would say next. Meanwhile, in Miami, head coach Mike McDaniel has his hands full. The Dolphins are 0-3, the fan base is restless, and the spotlight is burning hot on both him and his quarterback. For McDaniel, his future in Miami might very well be tied to whether Tua can pull himself together and lead this team to wins. He hasn't wavered publicly, though. Instead, McDaniel has gone out of his way to show support for his quarterback, talking about the challenges Tua faces, the opportunities he has, and the growth he still believes is possible. He pointed out that while Tua hasn't been perfect, he's also avoided some costly mistakes. The message was clear. The coach still has faith in his guy. McDaniel put it into perspective during a press conference, explaining that being a franchise quarterback is never simple, never still. The game demands constant adjustment, and Tua has the ability to rise to those demands. The coach emphasized that Tua is capable of making every throw, that he can take advantage of opportunities down the field, and that while there are plenty of chances to turn the ball over, he's done a good job of staying disciplined in that area. McDaniel knows the expectations are sky high, but he isn't ready to give up on his quarterback. His words carried conviction. It's not an easy task to be in his shoes. I'm very happy with where his mind is at and where his focus is at because he's focused on being 1-0 against the New York Jets. I know he's capable. That next game against the Jets is a critical one. Miami needs a win to calm the waters, and fortunately for them, New York is going through its own turbulence. Justin Fields is now under center, Aaron Glenn has stepped in as head coach, and the Jets are trying to figure out their identity. It's a prime opportunity for Tua and the Dolphins to grab momentum back. For Tua, it's also a chance to silence critics, or at least to quiet them for a week. Perform well, get a win, and suddenly the narrative shifts. Struggle again, and the noise will only grow louder, especially with someone like Cam Newton stirring the pot. The dynamic between Newton and Tua goes beyond just a war of words. It speaks to something bigger about the NFL today, the scrutiny quarterbacks face, the comparisons to legends and current stars, and the weight of contracts that sometimes define expectations before a single snap is played. Newton's own career is a reminder of how fleeting greatness can be. One year you're the MVP, the face of the league, dabbing in the end zone with the entire NFL watching. A few years later, you're battling injuries, bouncing between rosters, and eventually sitting in a studio analyzing the game you once dominated. That perspective is what fuels Newton's words. He knows the highs, he knows the lows, and he knows what it takes to carry a franchise on your back. When he talks about expectations, it isn't theory, it's lived experience. Tua, on the other hand, is in the thick of it. He's still writing his story, still trying to prove that he belongs in the conversation with the best. He has the weapons: Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, one of the fastest, most explosive receiver duos in football. He has a creative coach in McDaniel who schemes to maximize his skill set. What he doesn't have right now are wins. And in the NFL, wins are the currency that silences doubters. Without them, every mistake is magnified, every throw dissected, and every paycheck scrutinized. That's the world Tua lives in, and that's the world Cam Newton is holding him accountable to. What makes this exchange so captivating is the clash of eras and perspectives. Newton represents the battle-tested veteran, the man who's been through the wars and come out with scars and lessons. Tua represents the young quarterback under pressure, tasked with carrying a franchise forward in a league that doesn't wait for anyone to catch up. Their words may sting, but in a way, they're both right. Newton is correct in saying that money comes with expectations, and Tua is right to push back against the idea that it's easy to step into his shoes. Playing quarterback in the NFL isn't for anybody on the streets. It's for the few who can handle the physical, mental, and emotional grind that comes with the job. Both points matter, and both resonate. As Week 4 arrives, the Dolphins' matchup with the Jets isn't just another game. It's a referendum on Tua, on McDaniel, and on the team's direction. If they can come out with a win, maybe the story shifts toward resilience and growth. If they lose, the questions only intensify, and voices like Cam Newton's will echo louder. Either way, this exchange has reminded us why football is about more than just X's and O's. It's about pride, respect, reputation, and the endless conversation between the past and the present. And right now, that conversation is being led by Cam Newton and Tua Tagovailoa, two quarterbacks separated by eras but united by the spotlight. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Rumors have been flying around the NFL landscape, and if they are true, we might be witnessing one of those rare moments where a franchise makes a bold move that completely reshapes the narrative for its defense. Word on the street is that Rasul Douglas has agreed to a long-term deal with the Miami Dolphins, and the ripple effect of this decision could be enormous. It is not just about another cornerback putting on the aqua and orange. It is about a player who has been quietly climbing toward leadership status and is now apparently stepping directly into the role of defensive general in the secondary. Fans in Miami have been hungry for stability, hungry for identity, and what better way to deliver that than to bring in a seasoned, battle-tested corner who knows exactly how to set the tone both on and off the field. If we stop to think about what Douglas represents, the story gets even more compelling. He is not just a stopgap, not a veteran who is signing for a year or two before fading into the background. Reports insist that this deal is long, secure, and designed to give the Dolphins a leader they can trust for the future. A player like Rasul Douglas doesn't simply cover receivers. He communicates. He reads plays before they unfold. He has the kind of football intelligence that elevates everyone else around him. That is why so many insiders are buzzing. This could be a culture-shifting addition. When a defensive backfield starts believing in one voice, when there is a figure everyone can rally around, the transformation can be dramatic. Suddenly, the pieces that looked scattered before fall into place because there is one steady hand steering the unit. Of course, Miami has had its share of headlines in recent years, from their explosive offense to the ups and downs of their defensive front. But the secondary has often felt like a revolving door, a place where flashes of talent appeared, but consistency seemed hard to sustain. Bringing in Rasul Douglas on a long-term deal signals that the Dolphins are tired of patchwork solutions. They want solidity. They want someone who embodies both toughness and reliability. And what really fuels the buzz is that Douglas has shown in multiple stops across the league that he can adapt, he can thrive, and he can lead without hesitation. Whether it was with the Packers or in his earlier stints, he proved that when called upon, he could become the heartbeat of a defense. That same heartbeat could now echo in Hard Rock Stadium. Fans are already speculating about how this changes the dynamic with the rest of the defense. Imagine a locker room where younger defensive backs can look up to someone who has already fought through the grind of the NFL, someone who is not afraid to call out mistakes, but also knows how to uplift teammates. Douglas brings that energy, and Miami seems ready to embrace it. Coaches, too, reportedly see this as more than just an upgrade on the field. It is an investment in leadership. One player can inspire an entire group to raise its level of play, and Rasul has built a reputation for doing exactly that. It is almost as if the Dolphins are betting not just on his skill set, but on his personality, his voice, his ability to mold the secondary into something cohesive, something dangerous. Think of the ripple effects on game day. Quarterbacks facing the Dolphins might hesitate just a fraction longer when they see Douglas shadowing their top target. Safeties may feel freer to take risks, knowing there is a reliable presence locking down his assignment. The pass rush could find extra life because coverage buys them time. Suddenly, the defense doesn't feel like it is holding its breath every time the ball is in the air. That is the kind of transformation fans dream about, and according to the whispers making the rounds, it is exactly what the Dolphins are setting up by securing Douglas long-term. Of course, with rumors like these, there is always the chatter about the financial side. Some ask, is it too much money? Are the Dolphins tying themselves down to a player who is already in the heart of his career rather than the start? But that is exactly why so many insiders believe this is a smart gamble. Douglas is not untested. He is not a rookie still figuring out the league. He is a proven professional who has handled high-pressure situations and thrived. Miami is not paying for potential. They are paying for production, for wisdom, for leadership, and for the chance to solidify a part of their roster that desperately needed a foundation. In an NFL where contracts often seem bloated for players who have yet to prove themselves, this might actually be one of the more logical commitments of the offseason. And let's not forget the psychological side of it all. Every team wants to believe they are building towards something bigger, something lasting. For the Dolphins, securing a long-term leader in the secondary sends a message not only to the locker room, but to the fan base. This team is serious about defense. This team is serious about competing not just with shootouts and high-scoring duels, but with balance, grit, and a defense that refuses to back down. That matters. That resonates. The Dolphins are essentially planting a flag and saying, "Here is our guy, and we are building around him." From a narrative perspective, the timing could not be more perfect. Miami has been knocking on the door of playoff success, looking like a team that could break through but lacking that final layer of consistency. Douglas arriving now, reportedly on a long contract, could provide exactly that. He doesn't just fill a position, he gives the Dolphins an identity. When you think about the legendary defenses of NFL history, they often have one or two figures who embody everything the unit stands for. Miami may have just found that figure in Rasul Douglas, and if that is the case, then the rest of the league better start paying attention. All of this, of course, is still circulating in rumor form, but the smoke seems too thick for there not to be fire. Dolphins insiders are excited, fans are whispering, and analysts are connecting the dots. It feels like one of those moves that changes the conversation around a team, and in the NFL, perception matters. Teams that are feared for their secondary play force opponents to adjust their entire game plan. If Douglas is indeed putting pen to paper on a long-term deal with Miami, then quarterbacks across the AFC East might already be rethinking their strategies. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.